Be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications on future uploads. Hello everyone, Someone here, or you can call me Sully. Yes, I know it's January and I haven't done one of these in a while, but I figured to continue it before we get into the final big summary video of the year, sometime in February or March, whenever. So let's continue this by looking over the November movies of 2022 that I saw in theaters. And there is gonna be 7 of them. The first film I'm looking at is the third and final movie from Marvel Studios of 2022. And for my taste, it's pretty much okay. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Director Ryan Coogler has made an okay sequel to Black Panther from 2018 that's based on the Marvel Comics, with alright characters, a fine story, and neat, yet okay effects. It's mainly a solo entry for the MCU, with the only connections being the first Black Panther film, which I have the same reactions to, being that it's okay. There are expectations here, and some do come through, like a tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, who played the original Black Panther in the first film, decent action and fine humor when needed. But then, it's not perfect, as there's questionable bits I had ranging from continuity errors, such as a missing effect and changes in aspect ratio during the climax, and a couple of quote-unquote maybe pointless bits. Other than those, it's a definite okay film. Nothing that's too good or too bad. It's all okay. 2.5 mixed stars. The second film is quite neat for its original setup and suspense, even though one or two aspects of it are questionable. The Menu. Director Mark Laud has made a neat horror comedy thriller with alright characters, a unique story, and unexpected but fine suspense. It's quite an original film about a chef who presents and treats his meals like art, and would punish his guests, mentally or in rare cases physically, if they tried to leave or talk back about his meals. And everything that happens have been carefully planned and articulated according to the chef, even when one character isn't part of the menu. In some aspects it's quite clever, and the guests all have a connection to the chef, whether mutual or not, and the food being showcased looks well made and sometimes delicious based on their description. Though while I did chuckle and giggle at a few moments, even unintentionally, the comedy is mostly subtle, as I didn't quite laugh as much when necessary, and the horror, though it's more of a thriller to me, is likely the same. I might have expected a little much given the premise, in that it could have been too typical, and its ending is a bit questionable with how this menu's been going and set up, not to mention if they had ever rehearsed without any mistakes. But in the end, I was satisfied enough, and I might be hungry to see it again. Pun intended. 2.5 plus stars. This next film is based on true events that I'm familiar with, and one that I'm actually surprised at how well it handles the subject matter. She Said. Director Maria Schrader has made quite a good movie based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigation on the accusations of sexual harassment against film producer Harvey Weinstein, and based on the book of the same name by New York Times investigative reporters Megan Tooney and Jodi Kantor, with nice characters, a fine story, and neat music. It's wondrous how this film is presented, as it mostly follows the two reporters interviewing actresses, women, and former female employees of Weinstein, and them building their story and relaying information on what he did to them, all through dialogue and little visuals without going into too much graphic detail that is understandable and benefits the R rating, as well as making the good decision not to show Weinstein or some of the victims and only hear their voices over the phone. And outside of one gross visual that's brief, and that I felt the film could have gone on another minute longer, I'm fine with how it all went. Everything being mentioned isn't too harsh for me to handle, and those being interviewed answered fairly, rarely turning the reporters away. And overall, I'd say it's pretty fine. 2.5 plus stars. But this next one is a sequel to a film that I found to be alright, and this one's about the same. though this one has a little more and a little less than the original. Glass Onions, a Knives Out mystery. Director Rian Johnson has made a fine sequel to Knives Out from 2019, with fine characters, a nicely constructed story, and decent effects when needed. While I found the first film to be nearly decent for its cast, nice humor, and fully fleshed mystery, this one's about the same, as there's some good bits of humor, a few of which I laughed or chuckled at, neat edits, and a somewhat satisfying conclusion. But I say somewhat because there's likely one or two bits near the end that I felt would have made me like the film more if it was presented better. Yet outside of that, which I'm not going to spoil, it's about as alright as the original. There were small bits of predictability, unlike the original, but at least its narrative is a bit straightforward. And hopefully, if I view it on Netflix, I might come around to enjoy it more, and even get more out of it. But as it is now, it's alright. 2.5+ stars. And this next one is an interesting semi-biopic of Steven Spielberg made by the director himself, and has moments of how movies make everyone feel. The Fablemans. Director Steven Spielberg has made quite a nice semi-biography on his early life, with good characters, an understandable and nearly inspirational story, and fine effects when needed. While most of it is inspired by Spielberg's childhood and teenage years, there were a couple of moments that felt fictionalized, but were handled with much grace and realism that only took little to no dialogue to get what's happening, and in some ways, it's quite believable. And it's interesting how it shows one's passion for filmmaking can get out of hand, whether it be discovering a secret from one's family, friends, or enemies, finding ways to balance the love of movie making and being with a family, or seeing that one movie can bring out a variety of emotions than just happiness and love. Though at times I like to see one or two aspects of it explored more given how it ended, and with bits in the middle as well. But I did like the film for what it showed and what Spielberg went through in a semi-fictionalized fashion. It's inspirational in a unique and compassionate way, as well as being a bit charming and funny in certain places. 3 stars. However, this next one, a horror romance of all things, is a bit of a decent one, though it could have had more to it. Bones and All. Director Luca Guadagnino has made a decently alright horror romance based on a novel by Camille DeAngelis, with alright characters, an okay story, and okay effects when needed. While the story is a bit of a simple premise, the direction it goes is not what I was expecting from a movie like this. It has its bloody and gory violence, which includes the ending, but it also has characters that are almost likable, despite who they are, and it has beautiful and sometimes thrilling music. Yet the very ending is likely open-ended, and I would have preferred a better conclusion. But at least there's nothing prejudiced within the film as I thought they were going to, and presumably nothing terrible happens to either main leads, possibly outside of the climax. However, the majority of it is okay for me, or maybe a little more. I wouldn't have thought that a movie with horror and romance together would work, but in this case, it nearly does. 2.5+ stars. And the last movie I'm looking over is Disney's latest animated feature that I quite enjoy for everything it offers. Strange World. Directors Don Hall and Queen Nugent has made a wondrous animated sci-fi adventure with good characters, an interesting story, and great-looking animation. Despite there being a few obvious or predictable moments as it was going, as I was getting into it very well, with its story having a journey to the center of the earth vibes, yet containing creative and colorful creatures and environments, likable character designs and relationships, and some silly but funny humor. However, as much as I was guessing throughout on how the film all turns out, and bits of the film sort of laid it out, it all became unexpected when a major twist is revealed, making everything beforehand a lot of sense, or perhaps too much sense. Whatever the case, I enjoyed Disney's latest animated feature for its look, its characters, its story, and even its twists and turns. And I'd go to say it's better than Encanto and Raya from last year, and I hope to see it again soon. 3 stars. And that is it. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow on Facebook or Twitter. Support me on Patreon. Until next time, for a new video.